My elder sister despised Prince Ding for being blind and lame, forcing me to marry him in her place. I obediently married him, cured his eye disease and treated his leg bones, helping him seize the throne. But as soon as Prince Ding ascended the throne, he immediately made my elder sister his empress. He killed my son and divorced me. The one I wanted to marry was always Ah Shu. As long as she returns, you and Ru'er can die without regret. Reborn before the arranged marriage. I happened upon an imperial edict seeking a physician for the emperor's illness. I answered the call and entered the palace. After the emperor recovered, he asked me what I desired. I knelt before him and answered sincerely. I begged the emperor to personally adorn my elder sister for her wedding. I begged Prince Ding to treat my elder sister as his beloved forever and never betray her. Ru'er died at his first birthday banquet. Her delicate, porcelain-like face was splattered with blood. The restless chirping of cicadas announced the scorching heat of summer. Yet I felt a chill run through my body. 6 years of marital love. Not even worth a jade pendant. Is that right? Yes. My husband took a jade pendant for my elder sister, believing she was the one who had promised to marry him. He intends to divorce me and kill our child to make way for her. He severed the tendons in my hands, exposing the white bones. If it weren't for you meddling, the one who would have married me would have been Ah Shu. But it was his elder sister who despised him for being blind and lame, using her concubine's life to force me to take her place. I married him for 6 years, not only treating his eye disease and leg bones, but also sacrificing everything to help him claim the throne. Yet he abandoned me and killed our son for his elder sister, who only sought to climb higher. I held Ru'er in my broken arms, tears of blood streaming down my face. But Ru'er is your own flesh and blood. Why can't you even tolerate him? He stabbed me in the chest with a sword, slicing through my ribs, making a tearing sound. Ah Shu is already pregnant, I will have more children. Besides, the one I truly want to marry is Ah Shu. As long as she returns, you and your bastard son can die without regret. He actually uttered such heartless words. I trembled all over and roared in anger, blood spurting from my mouth. Pei-che, how can you be so cruel? Pei-che pulled out his sword and slashed my throat. Puff. Blood spurted everywhere, and one sword sealed my fate. I died with my eyes open. Pei-che will never know. The jade pendant that my elder sister took was stolen from me. The young lady must not marry the crippled Prince Ding. I subconsciously covered my chest and breathed heavily. It was like waking up from a dream. The maids were worried about my marriage, but I was extremely excited. 8 days after my rebirth, nightmares tormented me every day. I finally remembered something. What day is it now? Today is the 9th day of the 12th month of the 31st year of the Jinghe era. On the 9th day of the 12th month, the imperial hospital was at a loss for a cure, and the emperor posted a notice in the streets seeking a doctor. And I can cure the emperor's illness. Now my aunt is safe, and I have not yet been married. Prince Ding is still crippled. My elder sister has not yet gotten her wish. Poor Ru'er has not yet entered this filthy world. Everything can still be done. You lowly concubine. Marrying a prince is already a great honor for you. How dare you refuse to take his place? Bang! My elder sister Xiao Wanshu kicked open the door and shouted angrily. She had always been arrogant and tyrannical. To her, I, a concubine's child, was nothing but a lowly, despicable creature. Therefore, she could refuse to marry the crippled prince and simply force me to take her place. If I refused, she threatened to sell my concubine to a brothel, where she would be at the mercy of beggars. Now that the prince has succeeded in the succession, she regrets it and claims she should have been the one to marry him. You worthless concubine! Allowing you to marry the prince for 6 years was already a mercy. Do you dare to continue usurping his position? You worthless concubine! Your so-called aunt begged for mercy on your behalf and knelt to death in my courtyard. Her body was even devoured by dogs. You worthless concubine. How dare your son be born before my son? He deserves to die. In her previous life, she stood by Pei Chei's side, urging him to kill Ru'er with his own hands. Ru'er, who was only 1 year old, cried out in terror. He was thrown to the ground with great force. Bright red blood splattered all over my face. That warm feeling. It was just like when Rue's little hand gently wiped away my tears. Why are you standing there? You worthless servant. If you're not afraid that I'll sell your Aunt Shui to a brothel, then struggle all you want. I came to my senses and suddenly grabbed Xia Wanshu's neck. The force grew stronger and stronger. I watched as her expression transformed from anger and shock into sheer terror. Xia Wanshu, if you're not afraid of dying, go ahead and sell my aunt. My voice was icy cold. I'll make you beg for your life. But you won't be able to die. Each word was spoken slowly and clearly. Xia Wanshu was thrown to the ground, trembling all over. After a long time, so long that the room was silent enough to hear a pin drop, she finally found her voice. How dare you? Just see if I dare. Neither you nor Aunt Shui will escape. You will marry him. I gave her a cold stare, which scared her into running away. The maid said, "Second miss. You've changed." Yes. I had changed. In my previous life, I thought that by compromising, I could fight for some breathing room for myself. But in this life, if anyone dares to stand in my way, then I will kill the Buddha if he stands in my way, and kill the gods if I encounter them. I entered the palace after winning the competition, and in just 3 days, the emperor's illness had improved slightly, causing an uproar in the palace. Prince Ding entered the palace and blocked my way. Wait. Divine Doctor. Is my father's illness serious? I am very worried. Will you tell me? His voice was gentle and soft. And he looked harmless. Just like the day I first saw him. Don't be afraid. You are my wife. And I will treat you well for the rest of my life. My eyes and legs are getting healthier and healthier. Ningner is truly a divine doctor. If I had not met Ningner in this life, I would have lived like a maggot in a gutter. Ningner, I am so lucky to have you. My father's illness may not be curable. Ningner, are you willing to fight for the throne with me? I am willing. But in the end, I finally understood. I had never truly entered his heart. He was a man with the appearance of a divine being but the heart of a demon. He had torn apart every inch of my sincere love. Time flowed like stagnant water as I stood there, gazing back at Pei Chei. I refuse. My voice was cold and resolute. I refuse. Pei Chei froze. The hands on his wheelchair tightened instinctively. His lifeless eyes struggled to hide trembling pupils, as if they were about to shatter at any moment. Does the divine physician know why I came to the palace? I do not. He laughed. I came to ask the emperor to advance my wedding date. I wish to marry the one I love as soon as possible. Pei Chei was testing me. He, too, had been reborn. But in this life, no one would ever heal him again. I lowered my gaze, suppressing my emotions. I bowed respectfully and sincerely wished. Congratulations, Your Highness. My gaze grew colder, but the corners of my lips couldn't help but curve upward. Congratulations, Your Highness, for fulfilling your wish so early in this life. May Your Highness, even if blind and lame, find a beloved by your side and write a tale of eternal love. I turned and left decisively. I did not see Pei Chei's eager and determined expression. A month later, the emperor recovered, coinciding with his birthday. At the banquet, all the officials gathered, and I was also invited. Xia Wanshu looked at me with suspicion. The contract for Shui's concubine is still in my hands. In front of the emperor. You should know what to say and what not to say. I ignored him and kept my head down. Xia Wanshu's close friend appeared. Ah Shu. The marriage between your family and Prince Ding has been moved up. Are you really going to marry him? Xia Wanshu laughed scornfully. How could I marry a cripple? The late emperor only said that he would marry off a daughter of the prime minister's family. But he didn't say which daughter. The one I want to marry is the crown prince. A mere cripple can only marry a lowly concubine's daughter. Xia Wanshu and her confidant glanced at me and exchanged a knowing smile. Their expressions were filled with contempt. Just like back then when they looked down on Ru'er for being the son of a concubine. Your mother was just a lowly concubine. So you're also a lowly bastard. Ha ha ha. They didn't know. I, as a concubine's daughter, was born with the destiny of a phoenix. Whoever I choose will be the crown prince. Pei Che arrived late. He had never been favored. And after becoming disabled, he was even more despised by the emperor. Therefore, whenever there was a banquet, he would come quietly and leave quietly. I always felt sorry for him. After each banquet, I would personally cook a bowl of steaming hot Yongchen noodles for him. Ninger. This bowl of Yongchen noodles is both delicious and beautiful. What's even more precious is that it has the taste of home. But later, when he imprisoned me in the prince's mansion, I used my last silver coins to bribe a servant to make him a bowl of Yongchen noodles. All because I wanted him to ask the imperial physician to visit my aunt, who had suddenly fallen ill at the prime minister's mansion. But what did he say at the time? He embraced Xia Wanshu, his expression filled with disgust. A mere bowl of noodles eaten by commoners, do you think that can plead for mercy? His aunt was left with a lifelong illness. That's why, when she later pleaded for mercy on his behalf, she met her end. Father, I have something to report. Pei Che's voice pulled me back to the banquet. The emperor frowned. Speak quickly. Your humble son has been thinking of one person all this time. I do not want her to bear an unfounded accusation. I humbly beg the emperor to allow me to. I immediately interrupted him. Your Majesty, this servant has something to request. Pei Che looked at me in surprise. The emperor agreed with a broad smile. The divine physician has done great deeds. What is your request? Pei Che's expression grew dark and uncertain, with a hint of hope. Xia Wanshu, however, grew tense, her face turning pale. She narrowed her eyes, signaling me not to act rashly. I ignored them all. I knelt down and replied, Your Majesty, my elder sister and I are deeply devoted to each other. My elder sister is about to marry Prince Ding. I bowed my head to the ground, pleading earnestly. I begged the emperor to personally add to my elder sister's wedding attire. I begged Prince Ding to treat my elder sister as his one true love and never betray her. The music at the palace banquet suddenly stopped. Xia Wanshu stood up straight. Pei Che froze and clenched his fingers. He turned to look at me, his expression changing from disbelief to surprise and then to deep pain. His guilt and grief were palpable, turning into a curtain of rain that drenched him from head to toe. The emperor graciously agreed and issued an imperial edict on the spot. Pei Che opened his mouth but could not utter a word. On the way out of the palace, my wrist was suddenly grabbed. Pei Che, with reddened eyes. Ninger, I thought we could start over. I violently shook him off, clenching my fists so tightly that my fingertips dug into my flesh without me noticing. Blood and flesh were a mess. What face do you have to talk about starting over? You killed Ru'er. Pei Che bit his lip, his face flashing with anger. Ru'er wasn't my child, how could I bear it? I was shocked and angry. What are you talking about? Ashu said Ru'er was your child with the deposed crown prince. This is utter nonsense. I've barely spoken to the deposed crown prince a few times, how could we have a child? I stared straight at Pei Che, my voice cold. Did you investigate? Did you verify it? Pei Che lowered his gaze. Of course. In the 32nd year of Emperor Jinghe's reign, you were trapped on Cold Mountain, and it was the deposed crown prince who saved you. The two of you even spent the night together. He raised his eyes. His face flashed with anger. Xiao Wanqing, have you forgotten? Before I ascended the throne, you pleaded for mercy for the deposed crown prince. Your husband is me. Why did you plead for him? I was furious. I did it to prevent you from being accused of harming your own kin. He pursed his lips, unwilling to believe it. I laughed in anger. Is that all you investigated? Pei Che remained silent. I wanted to cut him down with a single stroke. Pei Che, the biggest regret of my life was marrying you. I turned and left, unwilling to say another word to him. In the 32nd year of Jinghe, Prince Ding was assassinated. It was I who lured the main assassins to Hanshan Mountain, saving Pei Che's life. And I was merely saved by the deposed crown prince who happened to pass by in the midst of the crisis. I was also forced to hide in a cave to evade pursuers and spent the night with the deposed crown prince. It was all to save my life. Yet I am so deeply suspected. In the 33rd year of the Jinghe era, Ding Wang was crowned crown prince. The emperor fell seriously ill, and the crown prince took over the regency. Pei Che wanted to get rid of the deposed crown prince. The deposed crown prince, Pei Zhen, was an upright gentleman, gentle as jade, and had saved my life. In order to save me, he was poisoned by an arrow and did not have long to live. If he was not killed, he would not live long. If he was killed, my reputation would be damaged. So I tried to persuade him. But I never expected this. What was a noble plan in my eyes became a stain of dishonor in Pei Che's eyes. All because of this baseless suspicion. My innocent Ruer never saw the sunrise after his first birthday. When I returned to the Prime Minister's mansion, my elder sister rushed into my courtyard like a madwoman. Xia Wanning, you did this on purpose. You deliberately drew the emperor's attention to this marriage, making it impossible for me to force you to marry in my place. You're so cunning, my dear sister. I never knew you had learned such skillful medical techniques. I sat calmly at my desk, sipping my tea. Yes, my dear elder sister. I did it on purpose. I spoke slowly and deliberately. This crippled Prince Ding is your husband, and you must marry him. She was so angry she clenched her teeth, rushed toward me, and tried to slap me. But I caught her hand. You are the legitimate daughter, the noble lady. You've always gotten whatever you wanted since childhood. Even if you don't want to marry, you could have asked me, your concubine-born sister, to take your place. You've grown accustomed to being arrogant. But why? Why? After being born into such privilege, do you have to take away my entire life? Now that the emperor has issued an edict to add to the dowry, I'll see how you escape this time. I stared into her eyes. I've told you before. I'll make you beg for your life and beg for death. Xiao Wanshu violently shook off my hand. Her eyes filled with hatred. It seems you don't care about Snow Lady anymore. Bring someone. Take Snow Concubine and her contract and throw them both into the Yihong Pavilion. I'll see if you can stay so calm then. My maid panicked and tugged at my sleeve. Miss. The eldest miss really wants to sell Snow Concubine. What should we do? I signaled her to stay calm. I raised my eyes to look at Xiao Wanshu. It's a good way to blackmail me. But first you have to find the concubine. She frowned. What do you mean? The old nurse who had gone out on an errand ran back, panting. Bad news. Miss. Snow Concubine has escaped. Xiao Wanshu flew into a rage. How dare you help a concubine escape? Then she seemed to think of something, her expression turning triumphant. A concubine who escapes is a fugitive slave, and according to the law, she should be executed. And you, for helping a concubine escape, should be sentenced to 3 years of hard labor. My dear sister, you will never escape my grasp. I smiled and rose gracefully. Who said the concubine escaped? She clearly went home to visit her family. Didn't father tell my stepmother? No wonder my sister didn't know. I had made preparations long before the palace banquet. Xia Wanshu was so angry that her face turned red and white, and she was trembling all over. I continued, Sister, if I'm not mistaken, father will be looking for you shortly to discuss your marriage. Sure enough, a maid reported, Young lady, the Prime Minister is looking for you. Xia Wanshu froze. No. Father must be looking for me to discuss how to break off the marriage. Father loves me so much. He would never give up on me. I straightened my sleeves. The moment the imperial edict was issued, father decisively gave up on you. Sister, compared to the future of the entire Prime Minister's family, you are nothing. Father is the most talented politician and the most delicate and self-serving person. When it comes to his children and his political career, he will abandon his children without hesitation. Just like in my previous life, when I was abandoned and brutally murdered by Pei Che, my father didn't shed a single tear, let alone seek justice for me. He didn't care about his own daughter and granddaughter at all. But my father did indeed spoil Xia Wanshu. Xia Wanshu, relying on his father's power, has been arrogant and tyrannical, enjoying a smooth life. Now I'll see if Xia Wanshu can continue to have it easy. Xia Wanshu pursed her lips and said firmly, Impossible. She turned and left. I looked toward the main courtyard, my expression calm. The show was about to begin. I found the jade pendant that my sister hadn't stolen yet. It was a high-quality jade pendant, warm and delicate, without any impurities. There were no patterns, just flawless white jade. How did this jade pendant end up in my hands? It had been so long that it took me a while to remember. It was the Shangyuan festival when I was 10 years old, the day the crown prince was assassinated. I saved a young boy on the street who had difficulty walking and seeing. He had bright eyes and white teeth, and was very handsome. He spoke softly and sweetly. Thank you for saving me, little sister. I was so scared. He searched his body for something to give me as a reward. He found nothing. He gritted his teeth and took off the jade pendant he was wearing and gave it to me. Little sister, this is the most precious thing my mother left me. And now I give it to you. I didn't want it and was about to refuse. But I was interrupted by people who had come looking for the boy. That's how this jade pendant came into my possession. I was young at the time and didn't know its value. I turned around and forgot all about it, along with the jade pendant. That was until Xia Wanshu found me with the jade pendant. By then, Xia Wanshu had been in a relationship with Pei Che for 2 years. I, however, had been imprisoned in Pei Che's bedroom for months. Xia Wanshu looked at me triumphantly. Sister, do you recognize this jade pendant? I couldn't recall it at all. She continued, Sister, you went to great lengths to plan for Prince Ding, serving as both his wife and his strategist. A confidant who understood him and a trustworthy ally. Yet he chose me and abandoned you. Do you know why? I finally snapped out of my daze. My heart felt like it was being scorched by a hot iron, causing intense pain. I struggled to speak. Why? Xia Wanshu smiled triumphantly. It's because of this jade pendant. If I hadn't accidentally discovered your connection to Prince Ding and stolen this pendant, I wouldn't have been able to win his heart no matter how hard I tried. Only then did I recall that incident. My heart sank even deeper. Was he really going to abandon his wife of many years, who had stood by him through thick and thin, just because of a childhood experience? His heart was as cold as iron. He was nothing but a heartless man. Nothing but heartless and ungrateful. The expected commotion at the Prime Minister's mansion did not occur as expected. Xia Wanshu did not argue with his father. and his stepmother did not create any animosity with his father. Even the servants showed no signs of change from their usual behavior. Thus, the days passed peacefully until the day of the wedding. Guests were in high spirits, laughing and chatting. The groom wore an expressionless face, while the bride was joyfully marrying him. Joyful? I furrowed my brows. Something was terribly wrong. The wedding maid called for the bride to ascend the palanquin. Xia Wanshu stood before the palanquin, pausing slightly. She tilted her fan and glanced at me, winking triumphantly. My entire body felt as though struck by lightning, freezing in place. Xia Wanshu had also been reborn. I lowered my eyes, hiding the coldness in my gaze. Their rebirth was useless without me to treat Pei Chei's eye and leg ailments. I would see how they managed to live together. Miss, someone has sent you an invitation to attend a medical consultation. The maid's voice interrupted my thoughts, and I furrowed my brows. Who had invited me to attend a medical consultation? I opened the invitation and my fingers trembled. It was the deposed crown prince, Pei Yun. Pei Yan was frail, and in his previous life, he was framed with witchcraft and stripped of his title as crown prince, dying before he even reached adulthood. In this life, due to the rebirth of Pei Chei and Xia Wanshu, my situation has become dangerous. Now that the crown prince hasn't been deposed yet, if I could ally with him, everything would be different. The mist was thick in the cold mountains, and even the breath felt cold. In the mist-shrouded bamboo grove stood a small house. Pei Yun opened the door, dressed in white. He fell into my eyes. A gentleman of refinement and elegance. His peach blossom eyes curved gently as he spoke softly. I apologize for disturbing Miss Xia. The sound of the forest echoed like a spring stream. My heart skipped a beat. Indeed, beauty is like a knife, and one cannot dodge it. The lesson I learned from Pei Chei's harmless face in my previous life was enough. I pursed my lips, my voice cold. Your Highness the Crown Prince, you have taken a pseudonym and avoided people's eyes. How dare I not come? Pei Yun was taken aback for a moment, then smiled. Second miss. Please do not be angry. I, Pei, am sincerely seeking your help to diagnose my pulse. He paused, then continued. I am also sincerely seeking an alliance with you. He extended his hand toward me. Second miss. Will you trust me? Pei Yun was indeed as cunning as rumored. He knew I would use my medical skills to ensure a lifetime of safety for myself and my aunt. I took his pulse, my voice calm. I trust you. At the Empress Dowager's banquet, I followed Pei Rui into the hall. Everyone looked at us strangely. Xia Wanshu mocked first. Someone is here to watch me get married. And now she wants to marry into the imperial family too. Doesn't she know her own lowly status? The people around her echoed her words. This second young miss is truly shameless, forcing herself into the prince's presence. She must be desperate to climb the social ladder. She's just a concubine's daughter, unworthy of the prince's attention. Doesn't she know what kind of divine being the prince is? Pei Rui frowned and stamped his foot. He turned slightly and took my hand. Ning, watch your step. He was protecting me. I smiled faintly to indicate I was fine. The crowd froze, their faces alternating between red and white. Standing motionless, Pei Chei's gaze grew icy in an instant. He gripped the wheelchair's armrests tightly, suppressing his emotions. His eyes seemed to be fixed on me. That look was not that of a blind man. I paused. Pei Chei's eyes were actually healed. He had used my treatment method from my previous life to heal himself. But he didn't know that. Without me, using that method would only backfire. Seeing the look on Pei Chei's face, Xia Wanshu's expression suddenly sank. He looked at me with extreme jealousy and hatred. I turned away indifferently and took my seat. The journey was long, and this was only the beginning. Pei Che and I had agreed to an arranged marriage alliance. I would marry him as a concubine to reduce the emperor's suspicion of him and help him seize the throne. In return, after he ascended the throne, he would establish a dual ruler system and grant me the authority to act as empress regent. I sat beside Pei Che, the position of future crown princess. Xia Wanshu seized the opportunity to attack me. Xia Wanning, who gave you permission to sit here? Do you have any sense of hierarchy? The other noblewomen joined in the gossip. Exactly. This position of future crown princess is not something a lowly concubine's daughter can sit in. You're shameless and overstepping your bounds. You worthless concubine. I looked back calmly. The crown prince hasn't said a word. Yet you're all so eager. How ridiculous. Xia Wanshu said angrily, the crown prince doesn't bother with a worthless concubine. But you have no sense of shame at all. Before I could say anything, Pei Jin looked straight at Xia Guanshu and said, I haven't even spoken yet. And the crown princess is already making decisions for me? You cannot sit in this position. But Xia Guanning can. His words were loud and clear. The noble ladies were stunned and did not dare to speak. The looks they gave me began to turn into unusual appraisals. Xia Wanshu was speechless, her eyes flashing with jealousy. Pei Che, who had remained silent all along, suddenly spoke up. Is His Royal Highness interested in this concubine's daughter? This concubine's daughter is cunning. His Royal Highness must be careful. His voice was cold, his eyes deep. Pei Yun smiled. He lifted his sleeve to pour tea, seeming unconcerned. Prince Ding is overthinking. I see that Miss Xia is the most pure and kind. Pei Che frowned. Your Royal Highness. It's fine to play around. But you must not entertain thoughts of marriage. A concubine's daughter. How could she be worthy of the position of Crown Prince's wife? Pei Rong furrowed his brows, his gaze flashing with displeasure. Just as he was about to speak, the Empress Dowager entered the hall. The Qianqiu banquet officially began, and this interlude was swept aside. Music and dance began. Cups clinked. And after a short while, I stepped out of the hall to breathe some fresh air. The moon was cool as water, casting a faint chill. My hand was suddenly grasped. Do you think choosing the crown prince can stop me? The voice was deep and urgent. It was Pei Che. His leg was healed as well. I shook him off violently. We'll see about that. Let's see what you're doing now. How can I believe that you and Pei Che don't have an affair? I laughed angrily. Whether you believe it or not, what does it matter to me? In this lifetime, I, Xiao Wanling, don't want to have anything to do with you anymore. Do you understand? Don't bother me. Pei Che pursed his lips and didn't say a word. After a long while, he spoke, his voice softening. Ninger. I don't care about your relationship with Pei Yun, as long as you're willing to be my concubine and stay out of the affairs of the former court. He paused, his expression growing even gentler. I can accept you. Slap. I raised my hand and slapped him across the face. Pei Che, you have some nerve. Listen clearly, even if you want to be my concubine. This lifetime, we have no future together. Pei Che's eyes flashed with anger. But there was also a hint of hurt. Xia Wanqing, do you think the crown prince will marry you? He never will. Don't you dare regret this. I glared at him coldly. Never. I turned and walked into the hall decisively. The Empress Dowager fixed her gaze on Xia Wanshu. Wanshu, you and Chair are married now. And his health has improved. You must give this old woman a great-grandchild soon. Wan Ning, you and Chair have also married. And his health has improved. You must give this old woman a great-grandchild soon. In my previous life, the Empress Dowager asked me the same thing. I happily agreed. And Pei Che's eyes were filled with love as he tightly held my hand under the table. Filled with warmth. But in the end, It was all insincere. I curled my lips and looked at Pei Che and Xiao Wanshu. Pei Che's expression was cold and indifferent. Saying nothing. Xiao Wanshu awkwardly agreed, yes. Yes. The Empress Dowager is right. Pei Zhan suddenly spoke up from beside me. Grandmother. I have some good news to share with you. The Empress Dowager looked over. Oh? Pei Zhan glanced at me. His expression joyful. Your grandchild has found someone he loves. He rose slowly, walked to the center of the hall, and knelt down gracefully. Your grandchild has long been infatuated with Miss Xiaer. I beg you to grant Xia Wanning as my wife. The hall fell silent. So quiet you could hear a pin drop. Complete stillness. Clang! Pei Che's wine cup shattered on the ground. His eyes were as cold as ice. Pei Yun seemed oblivious, continuing his speech with enthusiasm. Xiaer is a fine young lady, your grandson adores her. My grandson also hopes to give you an heir soon. The Empress Dowager smiled broadly. Good. Good. Ruaner has finally come to his senses. Pei Che suddenly spoke up. Your Royal Highness is eager. But do you know if Miss Xiaer is willing? He stared straight at me, his eyes flashing with a cold, sharp glint, as if I had chosen the crown prince and he intended to cut me into 1,000 pieces. I smiled faintly, met Pei Che's gaze, and walked over to Pei Yun's side. I knelt down and declared loudly, this servant is willing. Bang! Pei Che kicked over the table in front of him. Everyone turned to look. He said indifferently, I was drunk and lost my balance. The Empress Dowager agreed to the marriage, and the imperial decree would be issued shortly. The first step of my plan with Pei Zhen had gone smoothly. But on the way out of the palace, Pei Zhen's poison began to take effect. I immediately summoned a carriage and administered acupuncture to him to counteract the poison. To avoid arousing the emperor's suspicion, we only announced to the outside world that the crown prince had drunk too much. But Pei Che knew the truth. He stood quietly in the distance, staring straight at me. The expression in his eyes was unclear. After administering the antidote, I jumped down from the carriage. Pei Che grabbed my wrist and dragged me into the shadows. With reddened eyes, he demanded, You refuse to treat me, yet you treat him? How heartless you are. I shook him off. Are you crazy? He growled. The one you once cared for so deeply was me. A surge of anger rose within me, and I slapped him hard across the face. Slap. Who betrayed all of this? Who? But I gave you another chance. I glared at him fiercely. I don't care about any of that. Pei Che. Look at me clearly. This lifetime, my husband is Pei Ruan. The person I care for is Pei Ruan. The person I love is also Pei Ruan. Pei Che staggered, as if he couldn't support his own body. I ignored him and turned to leave. 3 months later, Pei Zhen and I were married. Soon. It was the 32nd year of the Jinghe era. In March, the crown prince was framed for practicing witchcraft. With my help in nurturing his health, the crown prince had enough strength to handle the situation. Ding Wang's scheme to secretly stir up trouble quickly fell apart. In this lifetime, the emperor failed to depose Crown Prince Pei Yan as he had desired. In the 32nd year of the Jinghe era, in October, at Hanshan, Ding Wang was assassinated. Dark clouds loomed over the mountains, and torrential rain poured down. The assassins were far more numerous than Pei Che had anticipated. He had assumed that by following the events of his previous life and making advanced preparations, he would be able to handle the situation. But he had completely forgotten. It was I who diverted the majority of the assassins' forces. Or rather, he never trusted me. He believed I was merely exaggerating to seek credit. He thought I had only made a small sacrifice, that my injuries were all feigned. He believed I was concealing what had occurred at Hanshan, betraying him. He had to experience it firsthand. Only then would he understand. what it truly meant to escape death. The rain was blown into the car by the wind, brushing against my face. Pei Yan gently wiped it away for me. This halfway up the mountain was indeed a good place to enjoy the view. I looked down at the battle below and smiled slightly. Indeed. 6 whole hours. Ding Wang had won a bitter victory. That night, Pei Che burst into my bedroom. Through the window curtains, the sound of dripping water echoed, and his voice was choked with emotion. Ning, I thought you were only being chased by a small group of assassins. I thought you had only paid a small price. He stumbled and knelt on the ground, his sword the only thing supporting him. But it turns out you made such a great sacrifice. The blood I shed today doesn't even amount to 1/10 of what you lost that day. Does it? He pulled open the curtains and cried out in a miserable voice. Ning, my heart is breaking. I know I was wrong. Ning, can you forgive me? I pushed his hands away and kicked him away with my foot. Forgive you? Why didn't you believe me that day? Why did you doubt me? You killed my Ru'er. You killed me. How can I forgive you? I pulled out the long sword from beside the bed and lifted his chin. How dare you ask to be forgiven? Pei Che suddenly raised his hand and grabbed the blade, instantly drawing blood. I was wrong. His tears fell like drops of water, as if they would pit the floor. I know I was wrong. I shouldn't have feared you, suspected you, and even less should I have hurt you. I roared. Then where is Ru'er? He choked up, still unwilling to admit it. No. Ru'er is not my child. He is not. How could I kill my own child? He did not dare admit that he had killed his own child. I slashed his chest with my sword. Pei Che! You cowardly traitor! Get out of here! He stood up, grabbed the hem of my robe, his voice stubborn. It's okay. We can still have our own children. We'll have many more children. His eyes were red with tears. Ning, forgive me this once. Please? I looked at Pei Che's sorrowful face, and Ru'er's obedient figure clinging to me seemed to be right before my eyes. My nose stung. My chest heaved violently, and a surge of grief and anger rushed to my head. I shouted. No! I won't forgive you. I will never forgive you. Pei Che froze in place. After a long moment, he finally stood up and left. If it weren't the wrong time to kill him, I would have torn him to pieces. 2 more hours passed, and dawn was approaching. Bang! Suddenly, the sound of chairs and tables colliding echoed from outside. I rushed to open the door. Xia Wanshu was quietly rummaging through my belongings. My dear older sister, what are you looking for? Is it this jade pendant? I picked up the jade pendant and waved it in front of her. Xia Wanshu froze, her face betraying her discovery. She quickly composed herself and smiled ingratiatingly. My dear sister, you don't have to marry the Prince of Ding anymore. This jade pendant is useless to you. Why not do me a favor and give it to me? I replied coldly, no. This jade pendant has a great use. Xia Wanshu's face stiffened. You. What did you say? I said calmly. At the very least, it can let your good husband know what you really are. Her face immediately became fierce. Xia Yanshu. You dare! I shouted loudly. Why wouldn't I dare? In my previous life, you snatched my husband, drove a wedge between us, and incited Pei Che to kill my son and me. Let me ask you, what is there for me to be afraid of? Xia Wanshu's eyes flashed with cruelty. Without this jade pendant, I could still manipulate Pei Che at my whim. Just wait until I become empress, then I'll skin you alive. I laughed lightly, raised my head, and slapped her across the face. Xia Wanshu, you can't even become the crown princess in this lifetime, yet you dare to dream of becoming empress? You dare! Xia Wanshu wanted to shout angrily, but she remembered that her current actions must not be exposed. So she calmed down. How ridiculous. I glared at her coldly. Someone come. There's a thief in my palace. Xia Wanshu fled in panic. In the 33rd year of Emperor Jinghe's reign, the emperor fell seriously ill as expected. He had no choice but to relinquish power and allow Crown Prince Pei Chui to act as regent. However, Pei Chui suddenly fell ill with a severe disease and was bedridden. The emperor issued an edict appointing Prince Ding as regent. Prince Pei lay on the concubine's bed, peeled a grape, and held it to my lips. Prince Ding isn't a fool, will he fall for this? I ate the grape and curved my lips. He will. Prince Pei is indeed intelligent. But he is even more arrogant. What's more, he was very anxious now. He was eager to make Pei Che and me his defeated enemies and eager to show me his power. Pei Che pursed his lips and suddenly said, "Now the poison has been removed. But my body is still broken. If I cannot have children in the future." He paused, not daring to look at me. "Aining, will you despise me?" I was startled. Those words were very familiar. Ache. My body is broken, and I may never be able to bear children. Will you despise me? What's the big deal? We'll just find a concubine to bear a child for you to raise. Pei Che hurriedly brushed me off and left. I sat on the bed, holding my stomach, and cried all night. I never imagined that one day someone would ask me the same question. And it would be my husband. I hugged Pei Yun tightly, my voice gentle. It's okay. Having no children is okay. The throne will always have an heir. And we will just live our lives well. Pei Yun's handsome face lit up with a smile, his peach blossom eyes sparkling with light. His voice was warm. All right. Pei Che fell for it. In the 33rd year of Jinghe, in September, Prince Ding forced his way into the palace. Pei Che had bribed the commander of the Imperial Guards. And the palace was instantly overrun. Left to be plundered. He gathered his 3,000 elite troops and led them to storm the palace. Just as he pushed open the doors to the emperor's chambers, the Imperial Guards emerged from ambush and surrounded them. Pei Yun held the head of the Imperial Guard commander aloft and shouted, "The traitor has been executed. Do you still refuse to surrender?" The 3,000 elite troops hesitated. Pei Che's face turned pale, so my brother's illness was fake. But so what? The Imperial Guards only have 10,000 men, while I have 30,000 elite soldiers. I have the tiger token of the troops stationed in the suburbs of the capital and am riding here on horseback. If we add another 20,000 troops, Pei Che, how can you possibly win? Xia Wanshu looked at me, his face full of hatred. Then let's fight. It's not certain who will win. I smiled faintly and jumped down from the carriage, my clothes fluttering in the wind, and the flawless white jade pendant on my belt happened to be exposed. Pei Che, who was about to give the order, suddenly stopped. He seemed to be nailed to the spot. He couldn't turn around for a long time. After a long time, so long that the moon had risen in the evening, the only sound was the cawing of crows. Long enough for Pei Che to figure everything out. He roared, "Xia Wanshu, you lied to me." Xia Wanshu shuddered violently. No. The jade pendant was stolen by Xia Wannan. It was stolen. I casually picked up the jade pendant. This jade pendant has been with me for many years. It was given to me by a blind boy I met when I was a child. I looked at Xia Wanshu. Sister, how did it become my fault? My voice suddenly turned cold as I stared straight into Pei Che's eyes. Who stole whose jade pendant? Who deceived whom? Pei Che seemed to have been struck by a heavy blow. Standing frozen in place, his eyes became redder and redder. He kept muttering, "That year, it was you. You were the one I wanted to marry. You didn't betray me, did you? Ru'er is my child. My I'm the one who wronged you. I'm the bastard. Pei Che seemed to have lost his soul. Xia Wanshu knelt in front of Pei Che and explained anxiously. Your Highness. Believe me. That jade pendant was stolen by Xia Wanshu. I'm not lying to you. Everything I said is true. Your Highness. The succession is important. Don't let Xia Wanshu cloud your mind. Pei Che raised his bloodshot eyes and said. Cloud my mind? Yes. Cloud my mind. You clouded my mind. He gritted his teeth. If it weren't for you, I wouldn't have suspected Ninger, and I certainly wouldn't have harmed Ninger and Ruer for your sake. He shouted harshly. Guards! Arrest the princess consort. Xia Wanshu panicked. No. You can't do this to me. Don't you care about the power of the Prime Minister's mansion anymore? Pei Che spoke slowly and deliberately. I don't care anymore. Xia Wanshu played her last card. I'm pregnant. Prince. I have your child. You can't abandon your child. Pei Che was stunned. Pregnant? Fine. Then she'll be buried with Ruer. He drew his long sword and stabbed Xia Wanshu in the lower abdomen. Xia Wanshu spat blood and collapsed to the ground. Pei Che's eyes were bloodshot. Red as purple. He twisted the sword in his hand, stabbing Xia Wanshu's abdomen repeatedly. Still not satisfied. He pulled out the sword and stabbed it into Xia Wanshu's chest. The sword pierced his heart. It's all your fault. You ruined my family. Xia Wanshu's eyes widened as he bled to death. Pei Che turned toward me, the sword in his hand still dripping with blood. His eyes were filled with tears. And he could see no one but me. I was truly wrong. Ruer was our child. It was I, his father. Who killed him? I am unworthy to be his father. Ninger. I truly regret my actions. He turned his gaze toward Pei Dun. Elder brother. I renounce this throne. I will trade these 3,000 elite troops and this picturesque realm for Xia Wanning's life. Is that acceptable? Pei Dun furrowed his brows and replied bluntly, no. I held my long sword and placed it on Pei Che's neck. Without your concession, Pei Che and I will take this kingdom for ourselves. Pei Che subconsciously leaned toward the blade, and his skin immediately began to bleed. Ninger, if killing me can ease your hatred, then go ahead. I sneered. Kill you? That would be too easy for you. I stared straight into his eyes. I want you to live with all the truth. Unable to die even if you beg for it. Pei Che wiped the blood from my sword and approached me, the blood on his neck flowing more and more. Ninger, can you give me another chance? This time I won't abandon you. I'll cherish you properly. Will you? I watched coldly. It's too late. When I loved you, you didn't cherish it. Now that you want to cherish it, I have not a single thread of love left for you. Do you hear me clearly? Pfft. Pei Che seemed to be struck by a massive shock, spitting out a mouthful of blood and collapsing to his knees. The backlash of the prescription finally manifested itself at that moment. I spoke in a calm voice. You didn't know, did you? Just the prescription and acupuncture techniques aren't enough to cure your illness. My blood is also necessary. Because I've been studying medicine and testing herbs since I was a child. My blood has become a medicinal ingredient. Only I know this. Pei Che's body trembled, and his eyelashes quivered. He laughed softly. It's all my fault. I didn't want to listen to his nonsense anymore. So I turned around and ordered the troops. Obey the order. The rebel Prince Ding has already confessed his crimes. Lay down your weapons. Those who repent in time will be pardoned. I followed Pei Rui to the Emperor's bedchamber. But Pei Che grabbed me by the arm. You won't give me another chance? No. You hate me. No. I may have hated you before. But now, I don't hate you at all. I will forget you. Blood gushed from Pei Che's mouth in increasing amounts. I couldn't stand up or see anything. You won't heal me. Will you? Nonsense. You were the one who removed the poison from Pei Rui. Weren't you? Yes. He suddenly tightened his grip, squeezing my wrist painfully. Ming, you only care about me. His voice was hoarse and torn, as if he had used up his last ounce of strength. I violently shook off his hand and coldly cursed. Madman. I turned and left, not giving Pei Che another glance. This coup ended as a farce. When the emperor awoke and learned of Prince Ding's coup, he was so enraged that he spat blood and died. Prince Pei Yan smoothly ascended the throne and changed the era name to Jiahe. Prince Ding was stripped of his title and exiled to the imperial clan office. Soon after, he died of starvation. The prime minister's mansion, which had been involved in the rebellion, was stripped of its titles, expelled from the capital, and banned from returning without imperial permission. Prince Pei Rui wanted to grant my aunt a noble title, but I refused. I understood my aunt best. She longed for freedom more than anything. Instead of a noble title, I suggested granting her a new household registration so she could go wherever she pleased. In the end, my aunt gained her freedom, with me as her protector, and she began to travel freely and boldly. In the first year of the Jiahe era, I became pregnant. Pei Zhen and I had long since given up on having children, so we were surprised to find out we were expecting. Heaven must truly favor Pei Zhen and me. When Pei Zhen heard the news, his peach blossom eyes lit up with joy. The most noble man in the realm reached out to embrace me, but first he asked for a handkerchief and wiped his hands vigorously. He feared his hands were unclean and might affect my body. He held me tightly, tears of joy streaming down his face. Ah Ning, you have no idea how happy I am. The greatest blessing of my life is having met you. All matters in the palace are in my hands. You may rest and nurture our child in peace. I leaned against Pei Rui's chest and closed my eyes. In my previous life, I followed the army north and fought alongside Pei Che on the battlefield. As a result, I developed a chronic illness and could no longer conceive. Later, I miraculously became pregnant. But when I told Pei Che the news, he didn't seem to care much. He said, "This is a critical time, I cannot be distracted." So, in the end, I had to take care of the pregnancy and find a midwife on my own. Once again, I was alone, enduring the scorching summer heat for 3 days and 3 nights, risking my life to give birth. Even as Pei Che was about to ascend the throne, he never once came to see me. I thought it was because he was too busy. Later, I came to understand. He was simply too preoccupied with his affair with Xiaowan to spare the time. He was merely afraid of the power I held and was seizing the opportunity to consolidate his authority. He simply did not love me, that was all. But Pei Yan was completely different from him. Pei Yan didn't love this world or power. He only loved me. When he heard the news of my pregnancy, he rushed here without even finishing the morning court session. Before I could even speak, he had already summoned the palace attendants and made arrangements for my pregnancy and childbirth. He was so worried that he seemed as anxious as if he were the one giving birth. Every day after court, the first thing Pei Rui does is come to check my pulse to ensure my safety. That day, he had just finished morning court and rushed over. But he suddenly stopped at the entrance to my palace, looked down at his dragon robe still damp with dew, sighed wryly, and went to change his clothes. He was afraid the cold from his clothes would chill me. He thought I knew nothing. Fool. I had already seen everything clearly. My heart felt like I had eaten a sour fruit. It was both sour and sweet. Pei Ji sat down, looked at me with a smile, but then suddenly frowned. Puff. Pei Ji spat out a mouthful of blood. My heart tightened in an instant. The cold poison in Pei Ji's body had been completely cleared, and his body was fine. Why did he cough up blood? I immediately took his pulse. But it was normal. I summoned all the imperial physicians to examine him, and they all said there was nothing unusual. Yet Pei Yan's condition grew worse by the day. Within half a year, he was too weak to get out of bed. He comforted me, his expression gentle as water. Perhaps this is fate. Ah, Ning. There's no need to grieve so deeply. Pei Yan had clearly outlived the time he was supposed to die in his previous life. Why couldn't he escape the fate of dying young? My nose stung, and tears streamed down my face. He gently wiped away my tears, saying with a pained expression, "Ah, Ning, don't cry. It will hurt your eyes." He said, "Ah, Ning, I fear my time has come. I entrust the affairs of the previous dynasty to you. After you give birth, whether it is a son or a daughter, they will be the sole heir. I have written a secret edict, which is hidden behind the Jingda Guangming plaque. Ah, Ning, do not grieve for me. Your ambition lies in building a glorious future. You must focus on achieving your great ambitions. Ah, Ning, do not forget me." He paused for a moment and added, "Ah, Ning, you should forget me. If you forget, you will not grieve." My tears fell in streams, unable to be stopped. "Do not say that. I want you to be well." "Ah, Rong, did you hear me?" He turned his head toward the window. "Ah, Ning, I keep dreaming of the witch clan's altar. Perhaps this is a sign." He embraced me, pressed his face against my hair, and whispered, "Don't be afraid. Even if I'm gone, I'll always be watching over you." I trembled all over, unable to speak. Autumn passed and winter came, and Pei Yan fell into a deep coma. I would lie there, holding his hand, gazing at him, then looking out the window at the snow. If only I could admire the snow with Pei Yan. As if he heard my call, Pei Rong woke up. "Ning, take me to the courtyard to see the snow." It was very cold, and I shouldn't have let him go out. But neither of us mentioned it. Snow was falling heavily, and I leaned against Pei Rong's leg, counting the days ahead. Even though he and I had no future together, covered in snow, he and I felt as warm as spring. In the second year of Jiahe, Emperor Gaozong passed away, and the crown princess ascended the throne upon her birth. The Empress Dowager took over the Regency, and the era name remained Jiahe. In the 5th year of Jiahe, the Empress Dowager issued an edict to search for the witch clan in the southern frontier. In the 7th year of Jiahe, the Empress Dowager personally investigated and discovered that the witch clan had used forbidden techniques, which were involved in the assassination of the late emperor. In the 8th year of the Jiahe era, the Empress Dowager personally led an army to destroy the witch tribe's sacred land and bomb their altar. In the 19th year of the Jiahe era, the Empress Dowager returned power to the empress. And in the same year, the Empress Dowager passed away and was buried alongside the late emperor. It is said that the Empress Dowager left behind her final words: "We once shared the snow together, and this life was enough to grow old together." The end.